Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 3 of Mystique from the Ashes, written by S.H.I.E.L.D. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, this issue of Mystique opens at the CIA headquarters with Nick Fury making his way through the hallways. And as he traveled, we get a narration saying this is uncomfortable and he could feel it in every nook and cranny. He could even feel it down to his pores, and there's no doubt about it. So as Nick continued to travel, we then jump over to Lowtown Madripoor with Mystique running along the rooftops of the city. And as she traveled, Mystique dropped in on a certain team radio chatter. Radio chatter that helped lead her to Fabian Cortez, the person she came to grab. The same person who was the target in Sentinel issue number 3. In fact, on the bottom of this page, we get to see just that scene playing out. As Trask's squad prepared to start their mission. So as the Sentinels dived into battle, Mystique jumped off the rooftop and shifted into Beast, and maneuvered into position as the events of Sentinel issue 3 played out via radio chatter. And once on the ground, Fabian Cortez dashed through the window and rolled into a full-out sprint as the Sentinels landed behind him and gave chase. So as Cortez continued to run, he shouted out that this wasn't fair and he was trying to atone for his past. And just like clockwork, Raven as Max appeared before him. And almost instantly Cortez dropped to his knees in exhaustion as he asked Max what brought him to Lowtown and if he heard of his good deeds. To which Raven responds by saying, "Good deeds, all Cortez has ever been good for is his ability to enhance his superior's mutant gifts." Now this insult didn't matter at all to Cortez, because he was willing to do anything at this moment to avoid being hunted down by the squad of Sentinels. So as he continued to beg, Cortez decided to convince who he thought was Max with a power surge in exchange for his life. So as Raven attempted to turn it down, Cortez gripped her arm and activated his mutant ability. So as Cortez's ability starts to take effect, the Sentinel squad turns the corner just like in their standalone comic. And just like that issue, Mystique was able to use Max's abilities, which came as a shock to herself. So with the power of Magneto at her disposal, Raven went to work on VoVOD. Now VoVOD was putting up a good challenge until Raven tapped into her new ability and took hold of a metal rod and drove it deep into her enemy and then started to twist it throughout his body in a horrific manner. So with VoVOD out of the fight, Drumfire and Lockstep entered the fray and also attempted to take down Raven as well. So with things escalating, Raven damned Cortez for complicating things because if the Sentinels didn't kill her then the magnetic abilities would. So with that out there, Raven put 2 and 2 together and used said magnetic abilities to quickly toss them aside. So with 2 more Sentinels defeated, Sawtooth watched her crew get knocked out of battle and took it upon herself to continue the fight. But like I keep saying, these Sentinels had no way of defeating her. Because all she had to do was use the metal armor surrounding the Sentinel to crush her like a piece of paper. And in an attempt to put an end to this needless battle, Raven took a hold of her remaining power over magnetism and let out an EMP blast that put an end to this fight in true Magneto fashion. So with the battle over, Raven contemplated putting an end to the Sentinels, but on second thought, she decided to let them live, cause living would be a better torture for them. So with everything said and done, Raven transformed into Colossus and carried Cortez out of Lowtown with the mission as a success. Now following that victory, we transition back over to Nick Fury making his way into his new base of operations, where Nick worked alongside Director Hill and a team of specialists that all had to undergo the same vetting process as himself. Because when dealing with a target like Mystique, there is no room for error, because with one slip-up she can bring everything down around them. So with the mission a go, Maria informs Nick that a few hours ago, there were some disturbances reported in Lowtown slums in Madripoor. Now at first, Nick stated that that wasn't unusual for that area. But that was when Maria doubled down by saying, "That's true, but there was also an electromagnetic pulse involved." Now this caught Fury's attention, but he still didn't understand how this had anything to do with Raven, and are they sure she was involved? Now Maria did admit that she wouldn't have thought to search there for this target, but Destiny's cryptic clues made her think to have a look at earlier footage of the area, and then they noticed the woman herself. Now with this revelation, Nick immediately wanted a flight to Madripoor to confront the mutant as soon as possible. But that was when Maria told him not to act too hastily because up to this point, all they had been doing was chasing the shapeshifter. And she thought it was more productive to come up with a strategy instead. Because this time it was an EMP in a heavily populated area with no casualties, but next time it could be way worse, and frankly S.H.I.E.L.D. needs a win. So with S.H.I.E.L.D. gung-ho in capturing Mystique, we transition to the next day in Brooklyn, New York with Mystique pulling up to a factory with Cortez in the trunk. And at first, when she opened it, Raven took the form of Max and informed Cortez that she would need Cortez to give her another power-up. And oddly enough, Cortez started to talk with authority towards him. But that was when Raven dropped the disguise and revealed who she was. And as soon as he found out it was her, he immediately regretted his choice of words. And with that said, this issue of Mystique comes to an end. Now following issue number 3, we then transition over to issue number 4 of Mystique, which opens on a nice and sunny day in Washington, D.C. at 0835 hours with Nick Fury driving down the road as we get a narration stating, "I don't like this, there haven't been any lines on Mystique in days, not since those Madripoor rumors. Why would she go all the way to Madripoor if she knew that S.H.I.E.L.D. had Destiny? Now S.H.I.E.L.D. did put word on the street that Destiny is dead, but Nick knows that out of all people Mystique isn't the one to fall for it." And just as he was thinking that, a bullet hit his window followed by a massive explosion that sent his vehicle over the edge of the highway. And as soon as he landed, Nick rushed to regain his composure and reminded himself to call it in. Which was exactly what he did, but as he was doing it, he had to respect that this attack was a bold move, especially in broad daylight. So, as Nick turned his head to look for the source of his attack, he noticed that it was Maverick, the same mutant that they hired to track down Sabretooth back in issue number 1, who was taken down by Mystique. Now to the best of Fury's knowledge, Maverick has gone missing, and it was just his luck that he assumed he found him. So with Nick back in hot water, he did all he could to avoid sudden death, and remember his training, and find cover. As bullets flew back and forth, Nick constantly thought to himself why the heck would Maverick want him dead, because for the life of him, it didn't make any sense. And if this battle maintained its current trajectory, then it would only be a matter of time until Nick found himself on the losing side. So in an attempt to mix it up, Nick used his battlesuit-enhanced strength to kick said car directly at who he thought was Maverick to buy himself some time until reinforcements arrived. So as the weapon flew out of Maverick's hand, Nick took the opportunity to press his attack. So as Nick shoots bullets at point-blank range, he thinks to himself that Maverick is no small fry and he didn't last this long in the spy game without some serious skills. Skills that were on display as he ran a blade through his battlesuit. Now with his suit heavily damaged, the two fighters continued their assault on each other that ended with Fury throwing who he thought was Maverick into the fire set by his car's explosion. So as Fury stood there exhausted, on the next page we jump back into the past at 1205 hours at Port Baltimore with Mystique disguised as Juggernaut crashing through the port shouting "What have they done to her?" referring to Destiny. So as she rampaged through the containers, a group of agents attempted to confront her, but that was short-lived as she quickly took them out and continued her search, which eventually led her to where they were keeping her. So with Nick's old safe house discovered, Mystique shifted back into herself and started to look around and recovered all hard drives possible before shifting into Angel and escaping into the sky. Following that, we jump to 1010 hours with Nick Fury in his office as his assistant enters the room. Once in, he mentions how he heard about Maverick's attack on him before he got to the office. Then, he casually mentions how Nick managed to change his clothes before coming in. With that said, the assistant goes on to tell Nick that Hill wants to see him after he completes his debriefing. So after that information was given out, who we thought was Nick ran out of the back of the room, and less than 15 minutes later we see Nick Fury entering a S.H.I.E.L.D. database room and inserting a thumb drive with protozoa on it. And then at 1500 at an undisclosed S.H.I.E.L.D. safe house, we see Raven taking aim at the guard station on top of a base. And one of the things she noticed was S.H.I.E.L.D. had started to set up their security, but unfortunately, she stepped up her assault and shifted into Cable and opened fire. And like a badass, Raven charged the front door head-on. And let's just say she was catching bodies left and right, and no one was able to stand before her. And once she got into the underground, the battle just escalated as we jumped ahead to 1720 with Raven changing from Cable to Marrow and going to town. So with sharpened bones going everywhere, Raven's relentless assault just continued in blood as she searched for Destiny's whereabouts. And to add insult to injury, Raven stated that she fought against a lot of different versions of S.H.I.E.L.D. throughout the years, and by far this version is the most easiest to kill. So with all agents killed, Raven took out a map that displayed all the locations she had taken down already and stated if she kept this up much longer, S.H.I.E.L.D. would run out of agents, just as she ran out of safe houses to target. So with chaos everywhere, around 1810 we see Nick's assistant reporting to Maria that they are receiving multiple alerts of mutants are attacking their safe house. Now this caught Hill's attention, because she was positive this was a job for Mutant Tactics, which was the same team Nick Fury was a part of. So with that brought up, Hill put two and two together and realized that Nick never reported in nor reported to his debriefing. So with red flags flying everywhere, Maria stated that the report said that Fury was attacked by Maverick, a German national who was their asset and who they believed engaged Mystique a few weeks ago and went missing. So with that going down, we noticed back in Nick Fury's office a bomb sat in wait as security was alerted. And on the next page, a massive explosion went off. So as Nick's office burned, we get another narration saying, "My family has survived the greatest challenges of the postmodern and modern age of warfare against both humans and superhumans. Over time they have fought against Hydra, AIM, the Kree, and even Thanos. And alongside that, they even fought in events that included World Wars, Cold Wars, and even Secret Wars. And during all those events, Furies always came out on top because Furies are used to winning." So as he walks into his home, we quickly see this Nick shift into Mystique as the real Nick sits tied to a chair as her prisoner. So with that said, this issue comes to an end with the narrator continuing to say, "Since my dad pointed me towards this mission, something felt off, because this can't be the Furies' legacy. Because this sure doesn't feel like winning." But anyway, down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.